Quickly becoming one of today's most celebrated directors, Jordan Peele brings us his third film, a sci-fi thriller titled Nope. Did Nope deliver on those thrills, or did this movie make us want to get out? Okay, I'll stop. What's up, everybody, and welcome to my review of Jordan Peele's third film, Nope. Now, I am somebody who has continued to have my eye on Jordan Peele, very curious of anything that he's going to come out with. He came out first with Get Out. I really enjoyed that movie. I was as surprised as anybody. His directing career just seemed to kind of come out of nowhere. Wasn't as big of a fan of Us. I'm fine with Us. It's a movie that I would say that I like, but I feel like it kind of crumbled under its ambition a bit, didn't quite come together in the end the way that I hoped that it would. And the premise, the trailers of Nope has certainly sold me. I love the old school extraterrestrial alien type movies. We don't get very many of them. Signs, M. Night Shyamalan, one of the more direct comparisons that we're going to hear to this movie, is still one of my favorite movies of all time. And so I've been quietly anticipating this movie for quite a while, hoping that he was going to kind of rein in a little bit of that metaphorical ambition that he had in Us and give us something a little bit more straightforward like he did in Get Out. Starting off with the positives for Nope, I will say first and foremost that I enjoyed the fact that this felt like kind of a simple approach to an old school style story. You've got these characters, that's this ranch family, they've got roles within Hollywood, and they have this larger than life situation that kind of unfolds around them, but the movie feels small scale. It feels focused on the characters, focused on this family and their dynamic and their trauma, and it never really loses sight of that. For as big and as ambitious as this movie gets as it goes along in the visual department, it never feels like it grows outside of its story, or it gets a little too big for the story that they're telling, and I appreciated that. Nowadays, when it seems like blockbusters are always competing to go bigger and badder and just have the most extravagant scenes ever, I appreciate the fact that you can have a high-profile director with a high-profile film that still feels grounded.
Bro, what you see?
Something above the clouds.
That's big.
How big?
Big.
I thought that the entire cast was great, all the dynamics between them, as well as the fact that, just like I said, with the way that the story is small and focused, so is the cast. There's really only about 4 or 5 characters that are noteworthy in this movie, Keke Palmer being the standout here. She's kind of the more entertaining, the more flamboyant, the more energetic character of the main cast, and I think that she pretty much has your eyes and your attention from the moment that she walks on screen. Her very first scene has been in the trailers, but it's a very fun and entertaining introduction to this character, and she never really loses that energy throughout the movie. So even though things get tense and things get dark and things certainly get very creepy throughout the movie, she never really loses that fun edge to her character. I appreciate the fact that we get Michael Wincott back in this. Haven't seen him in a while. I've always loved that guy as a character actor. He's got at least top 10, one of the coolest and most iconic voices of any actor ever. And it was nice to see him kind of come into this movie. He's not a big role, but once he arrives on screen, he certainly has that old school presence that he's always had. And I really liked Brandon Perea as Angel. This is a character that shows up in the second act of the film, and the first couple of scenes with him, I thought he was going to be annoying. I thought he was going to be a character that it was going to frustrate me or was going to go a certain direction, and he actually brought a lot of fun to this movie. His presence, his continued presence throughout the movie was very welcome, so that was a nice surprise. Of course, being that Jordan Peele directed this, it doesn't really need to even be said that it's very well directed. This is a guy that knows how to shoot a movie. He knows how to frame things. He knows how to pace out a movie. I mean, on the directing side, the filmmaking side, I always know I'm going to get something of quality from Jordan Peele, even though he hasn't done very many movies. He has made that stamp that even though he might falter in the narrative department for me, as a filmmaker, he's somebody that I will always have my eye on, and I will always know that there's going to be something quality given to me. And visually, this is probably his most ambitious. Actually, I'm definitively going to say it's his most ambitious of the 3 films that he's given so far. He never loses his grip on the film with all of the CGI and all of the digital effects that are going on, and he also just frames things very well, like the scene that was in the trailer. If you watched that trailer with something chasing Daniel Kaluuya while he's riding on a horse, and it's a big open wide shot. There's a lot of moments like that throughout the movie that just shows that this guy's continuing to become one of the best directors working today. Moving on to the mixed aspects, I'll say that the humor in this film was something that I was a little mixed on. On one hand, I don't think that a lot of the humor landed for me, and I've self-admitted to this many times. I'm a very hard audience when it comes to comedy, so take that with a boulder of salt. A lot of you guys are probably going to laugh your asses off at a lot of this, the jokes in this movie, but there was only one or two moments where I actually got a good chuckle out of it. But on the positive side of that, and why I'm mixed, I think that Jordan Peele continues to really have that balance and maintain that balance within movies like this that's going for tension, that's going for some scares, that's going for some thrills, and he throws plenty of humor in there without ever diluting the thrills or the scares, and that's something that is not something that we see very often nowadays. A lot of times in modern filmmaking, post-MCU filmmaking, the jokes, the intended humor tends to water down every other intention in the film, and 3 movies in, I have not seen Jordan Peele fall into that trap yet. My other mixed aspect is Daniel Kaluuya's character. Now, he is the more subdued and quiet and stoic of the characters. He's very much the opposite of his sister, played by Keke Palmer, who is just a very larger-than-life character that just glues all of your eyes. She takes up the whole screen. She soaks up all of the attention. He's very much the foil to that. And it's intentional. I know that because Daniel Kaluuya is a fantastic actor, and I've seen him give tons of emotional range in the few times that he's been on screen. So this was something that Peele wrote the character to be that way and directed Kaluuya to perform the character in that way. But my disconnect with him is that even though I understand why he is the way that he is, why he's quiet, why he's more subdued and reserved, and there's certainly sequences in the movie where that character's personality works in favor of the scene, there's a lot of times where, to me, it just felt strange that he was not reacting to what was going on. There's a lot of crazy shit that goes on in this movie. And something happens in certain scenes where any normal person, 99.9% of the earth, is going to look at it and go, oh shit! And he just goes,
you ready?
Mm-hmm. Many moments like that where I'm just looking at it, I'm like, dude, have some reaction. I know you're stoic, I know you're reserved, but goddamn, like, be a little more reactive to what's going on. It felt odd to me. And now moving on to the negatives. I'm still undecided, honestly, whether or not I like this more than Us. And that should tell you, given the way that I talked about that movie in the beginning, where I'm landing on this film. I feel like on its surface, this movie is a much more simple premise and a much more simple concept than certainly Us, but even Get Out in certain aspects. So Jordan Peele feels like he's trying to like bring himself back down and ground himself a little bit more after Us. And that makes all of the moments in this movie where he tries to put in those metaphors and that elevated side of storytelling, it makes it feel foreign. It makes it feel like it doesn't belong in the movie, and it doesn't flow naturally into the story. It just feels like it stands out like a sore thumb. It's like a square peg in a round hole situation. You know, there's some themes, there's some ideas that he's exploring throughout the main plot of the movie that's very simple and very easy for most movie fans to pick up on throughout and be like, okay, I see what you're doing here. I see what's kind of bubbling underneath the surface. And then there's some other things that he explores that I'm not going to get specific on that really just feels like a distraction in the movie. It feels like this left turn, let's take a break and go over here for a little commercial break in metaphor land, and then we get back to the movie, and by the time the credits rolled, that little commercial break never really weaves its way into the film or the main theme in a way that feels organic. It almost felt like maybe he was responding to some of the negative criticism of Us, and he was trying to restrain himself so much throughout the movie, but once in a while, he couldn't help himself and just had to throw in a couple metaphors, and it was like, dude, your movie was doing just fine without all that extra shit. You don't always have to have these big, large, smarter than everybody else concepts. And that's where I feel like Jordan Peele as a storyteller is starting to show some of his faults, or maybe his ambition is starting to overextend his actual talent to a degree. Brilliant director, but 2 movies in a row now, he seems like he is reaching for the stars and not coming close to reaching them. And so by the end, I have this movie that was certainly entertaining and certainly was a movie that I mostly enjoyed, but at the same time, there was so many things going on throughout the film that just made the overall end product feel messy to me. I'll make the comparison to M. Night Shyamalan, who Jordan Peele is certainly starting to feel like he's starting to have that early M. Night Shyamalan magic to him, and certainly the early M. Night Shyamalan reputation. But just like Shyamalan, once you see the director's tricks. Once you see his deck of cards enough times and he keeps pulling out the same cards, you start to walk into his films with certain expectations, and it kind of falters your viewing experience a bit, to where you walk in and you're already looking for metaphors, you're already looking for something that has social commentary, very specific social commentary when you're talking about Jordan Peele, and you start to just see right through the movie. And I hope that he starts to change it up or use some different tricks or different deck of cards, to use that metaphor. See, I can use them too. Because I feel like he might go the same route as M. Night Shyamalan, to where you're going to start to get more films that's trying to pull off the same exact magic over and over in a different setting, and people are going to start to see through that and not be wowed by it as much as they were back when Get Out came out. And one of the smaller issues that comes because of that is that the movie does feel a little bit too long. It's just barely over 2 hours, and in the third act, even though that was the most exciting act of the movie for me, it did feel like it started to drag a bit, and I think that little commercial break that I keep hinting at, you could have cut that entire thing out of the movie, and I think it would have been a tighter, more entertaining experience. In my final negative, I cannot get specific whatsoever without entering spoiler territory, so all that I will tell you is that there is some creature design that is utilized in this movie that I felt a little bit more perplexed with and a little bit more confused at than I was wowed. There wasn't as much of an impressive side to it or a cool, unique aspect to it. I was just looking at something going, that's weird. Overall, guys, Nope was fine. This is one of those movies that I'm in the middle on. I'm not blown away by it, certainly. I don't think that it's trash. I know the internet's going to go to those two sides of the room, but I'm very much in the middle, saying that this is a movie that I was entertained by, but I was also frustrated and disappointed by. So 3 movies in now, and only 1 film by Jordan Peele, for me personally, has been a knockout. Well, that's it for me, guys. If you enjoyed this review, please click over here and check out my playlist of all the other 2022 new releases that I have reviewed. I'm also going to put my most recent horror tier list up here if you enjoy those. Please like and share this video and hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss my Jordan Peele ranking on Sunday. Thank you for watching as always, and remember, opinions are like assholes, but that doesn't mean that you have to be.